Welcome to What's Your Story, where we, Jaime Marco,
and Stan Brown,
delve into the extraordinary lives of everyday people.
Listen in as we uncover the unique tales that shape who we are,
one story at a time.
Hey, let's get ready to explore today's story.
Let's do it.
Whoa, are we having a day?
Listen, when I put on the Magnum PI shirt, everything goes haywire.
Why did I just forget his name? What's his name?
Tom Selleck.
Oh, that's right, Tom Selleck. We'll share a story about him afterwards. But Dad, so listener, you don't know this, but we just had like some serious technical difficulties and we have a guest that is waiting. So I want to let her in. Dad, I know her. Again, this is the case. I know her, you don't know her, whatever. We're going to jump in. But I think it's really cool. I think you're going to be excited to hear her story and what she's doing with her world. And she's an expat. She's living, I believe, in Dublin maybe now. I think.
Her first name?
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Yeah, and then we can wrap up afterwards. Normally we have a little bit more shtick in the beginning, but I don't want to keep her waiting. So
we had to stick offline this morning, getting trying.
All right, here we go. We'll say
hello, Kelsey. Come on down.
Hey, we matched, Dad. Do you see that your hat matches my shirt? We didn't even color coordinate. Hi, Kelsey.
Hey, Kelsey. Good morning.
Hello. Hi, Jaime. Hi, Stan.
Hi. Sorry about that. We had some serious technical difficulties. And by technical difficulties, I mean a 75-year-old man trying to figure out his computer. Just kidding.
Hold on. The hamster was tied.
I noticed the AOL address, so we're good. We're good.
It's coming back. My hamster on the wheel got a little tired, got a little winded this morning.
I love it. Every time
I thought you were just coordinating your outfits.
I always get dressed in the dark. Whatever happens.
I have tried him to come over to the other side, but he is like AOL all the way. I'm like, Dad, you really have to stop with it. I feel like when I email him, I hear.
Listen, you're always complaining about too much connectivity. I'm just the antithesis of that. So we'll meet someplace in the middle.
All right, that sounds good.
Where are you this morning, Kelsey? Where are you located?
It's actually not morning here. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm in Dublin, Ireland.
Ooh.
But I'm American, as you can probably pick up from my accent.
Top of the afternoon to you.
Wait, so we normally start with this question, but I have to ask you really quick. Do you watch Bad Sisters by any chance?
I haven't watched the newest season, but yes, I have watched it. And I actually only live like a kilometer from where they go swimming. And that's where I go swimming.
No way. That's so you jump in that cold water. Oh my gosh, we're gonna talk about that.
Best drug ever. Happy to talk about it.
Amazing. Well, so welcome. It's so good to see you. So we're gonna start off with this question. You may have seen, if you've heard some of the episodes, we've done this on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being today is the best day you've ever had, not a worry in the world. And I always
it's 4:00 in the afternoon over there. She's half her days.
I know, but she's a mom, a wife, she works, has got a great role. She's done a lot of things in the world. So I think there's some worries, I would imagine. Or a 1 where you should not have left bed and shouldn't have been peopling at all today because that would just be not good, infectious activity. What's your number? You're almost at the end of the day. So what's your number today?
First of all, I've never heard peopling as a verb. I like that. I will use that.
We're very innovative here.
8.5. I'm doing pretty good.
Is that on the European scale or the American scale?
Fair question. I like to consider myself I'm a recovering American, so I don't over exaggerate too much. Yeah. Somewhere in between. Somewhere in between.
It's so funny that you say that. My husband, I don't know if he knows, he's English, and he's always like, you always like over exaggerating. I'm like, oh, now that you just said that, maybe it is an American thing.
Jamie, I don't like
100%. As you know, I speak like you do, and I have to. Part of what I talk about is playfulness or other things like that, and I have to always be like, this is not just an American thing. I have to research, like I get that right because I'm speaking to lots of Europeans, and acknowledging it is key.
Oh my gosh, incredible. Well, I know that there's so many different paths that we can go about your story. And we crossed paths a few years back. I think actually like right before COVID. Was it before COVID? Yeah, I think it was before COVID is when we met.
Right before January 2020.
Oh my goodness. But I want you to go where you want to go. So first of all, Dad, where do you want to start? I mean, I know we want her to go where she wants to go, but I'm just.
Why don't we start in the middle and work both ends?
But no, I think I knew you were living now in Ireland, but how long have you been there for?
Just over 4 years. I get
Hold,
to
hold,
apply
hold
for
on.
citizenship
What's
this year,
very
fingers
telling
crossed.
is the logo on someone's hat. What is the logo on the hat you're wearing this morning?
Oh, I can't see.
Oh, it has no significance in my life whatsoever other
You,
than I
you
like the
may
hat,
think
but
that. You may think that.
it's Nike. It's Nike.
Oh, there
Actually,
we go.
I like their environmental practices, which is something we want to talk about today. And this is all reusable hat, but I like that it's quick dry and it fits my ponytail just right.
Yes.
Jaime, I'm sure you can relate
Yes.
to aesthetics of choosing that.
I mean, this whole, yeah, I actually just bought one of the ones that has like the spider web looking thing on the back so you can put your ponytail at different levels or heights.
Yep.
Amazing game changer.
Amazing. Okay.
I have the one with Jamaican hair attached to it.
Dad, hey Dad, reminder, you don't have to lean in when you're talking. You can sit back.
Okay.
We can still hear you. I got you a microphone.
I have the one with Jamaican hair attached to it. Rastafarian.
That you don't have to repeat either. Okay, so
We
Kelsey.
I love that song.
take a quick break
Three
so
Little
we can
Birds.
check that
Great
out.
song.
Yeah. So I know that you have like this incredible thing about sustainability, and I know that I've heard you talk about it a couple of different times. I've read some things that you've written. I'm curious, what prompted the move to go from the U.S. to Ireland? Was that part of the decision?
I would love to tell you yes, but the honest answer is nope, not at all. That said, there are some good benefits.
How long are you there now?
4 years.
What's that?
4 years.
4 years. Yeah, 4 years. My husband and I have both been very fortunate to travel a good deal before we got together. But always like in abroad capacities or holiday capacities or things like that. And so there was a point in our conversation where we're like, we want to live abroad, but not student teaching abroad, like have a life and have a nice house and have friends. And so we have a chalkboard wall in our house and we just wrote that on there. And actually when I took a few jobs back at Google, there was an opportunity and a really great manager where they said you could do this from Paris, London, Chicago, or Dublin. And I was like, cool, I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm not going to do it from Chicago. And so it's just an opportunity to do something different, get out of our comfort zone and explore that, which I highly recommend and happy to speak to that more. That said, we really, from a sustainability standpoint and how like the way of life things, like we live in a little eco-friendly community, like we have solar panels, there's built-in compost to what we're doing, like you can recycle everything at our grocery store, like all the plastics, like I would, depending on where you live, everywhere, but certainly here it's easier to be environmentally friendly and kind to our planet. We walk or bike the vast majority of places we go, and I think that's harder just by virtue of what America is to a lot of folks.
So you didn't pick Dublin with a dartboard.
Almost. I'm originally from Colorado, and Dublin, what my husband was a hard no on London, just too big, too much commuting. And we really like the outdoors. And I'm trying to think if there was any other really compelling reason. I would have loved Paris. I'm a shabby French speaker, but Dublin seemed to be the place that was calling us. And yes, got first on the dartboard.
That's so neat. And then you have small children. So you took, I think you just had another one. So you had one when you moved over there 4 years ago. Yep. And so what has it been like going from the US to now living in Ireland? Like, what are some of the biggest differences that you noticed after doing that?
Yeah, so we moved over there when at the time, my first son was 3. So he's out now, spent more of his life in Ireland than in the US. And if you ask him what he is, he says he's Irish and American. He's both.
With an accent? Does he have an accent?
Yeah, he does. I get asked that all the time. A little one. But he says mom instead of mommy, right? Mom, will you come here? Will you come zip up my jumper? Give me a plaster. And I love it. It's very cute. Biggest differences between America and here. A huge part of it is we walk, right? Like most places we walk or we bike to, right? We're not driving in our car. I think because Dublin, so for those folks that are listening and are not familiar with this, about 20 years back, Ireland did something very smart and made the country very appealing to come to because they had the lowest corporate tax rates of all of Europe. And so that's why a lot of the big tech hubs are in Ireland for that reason. So where we live and where we do, it's very just international and transient, right? But like my son's friends are Czech, German, Israeli, Spanish, right? Like Irish, of course, but just a lot more diversity from a cultural perspective that you wouldn't find. We spent the last 10 years prior to Ireland in Chicago, where there's diversity in other aspects, but not like the cultural side of things. So that's definitely there too. I would say those are two things that stand out to me.
No, there's no mountains out there like Colorado, are there?
There what?
Any mountains?
In Colorado?
No,
just hills.
In Dublin.
Oh, in Dublin. Yeah, yes. They're Dublin mountains. If you're just listening to this, I'm using quotations. They're hills, but it is we can walk to the sea in 15 minutes and do cold water swimming, but we can go hiking. That's about a 15-minute drive from here. It's not 14ers like you would think of in Colorado, but it's nice outdoors hiking trails.
And probably a very small obesity problem, I suspect. Much healthier lifestyle.
Oh, that's such a great thing to think about. I mean, this is very anecdotal, but yeah, I don't see obese folks very often.
Yeah.
We can send you pictures if you like.
Just what I always wanted. I'll add it to my Christmas list.
It's funny. I miss that. Like because I lived in Chicago for a long time as well too. And we used to walk everywhere. And now we live in Florida where you can be outside 12 months of the year, but we are driving everywhere. And to ride your bike around our neighborhood, it's like taking your life in your own hands because people just back out, So it sounds, I don't know, I might be asking you to look for real estate, but I don't know if my English husband would ever move to Dublin. I don't know. We don't know. But when you talking about just the differences in sustainability, I know when we go and we stay with my in-laws, my sister-in-law in England, and we take the trash out, just in that piece of it, they really do have different bins. There you go. Different bins for different things. And they will not take your trash or your rubbish. Look at that. I'm going back into my English side. If there's certain things there. And here, I know sometimes, I hope you don't get mad at me for this, but we have a recycling bin and a regular bin. But sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I think this goes here. We're not as conscious about it. And then over in England, they're like, no, like we will not take your trash if you put something in there. And I know that your life has been kind of committed sort of to that path. So drive us down that path a little bit.
Yeah. First, I want to say something really important. You said, don't get mad at me. And I know you said that in jest, but I think the most important thing that folks who love the planet can do is, and this goes for anything in the world that you feel passionate about, is to shame other people around. It's really not helpful. And I'm human. Please make space to ask me all the things I do that are not environmentally friendly, because there's still a plenty, right? Like that's the thing with being humans. So I would never not like you for that. And I still get confused because the labeling of stuff and what goes where, and do you need to clean it? And it's like that. It's not good. It's period. It's not good. But yes, you're absolutely right. That is taken a bit more seriously here. Like all of our plastics and glass go through our dishwasher before we put them in their proper recycling bins. The thing though, in the US, is they say they take them, but they don't necessarily. And so if they see, I don't know the technical percentage here, but if they see a certain amount of things like in the bin for glass, like that are the lids or plastic, they'll just put it all in the rubbish, right? But they don't tell you that. So you think you're doing this great thing and you're not.
Yeah.
I think it's a question of just raising basic awareness. With animals, you learn not to poop where you live. And just taking care of things on a simplistic basis makes a great improvement.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, particularly in the environment, but a lot of things that I talk about, right? Like Jaime and I know each other more through facilitation and speaking. It's not about being perfect. It's always about the step of whatever you're doing, can you do one step further, right? It's about growth. And that, I would say, is the message that, as I talk more about my journey of sustainability, is the message that I'm trying to promote. I have a fun anecdote. What percentage of Americans do you think were vegetarians 20 years ago?
20 years ago, I'd say probably maybe 7%.
No, very close. Okay, sorry. Now I cheated. Sorry, Jaime, forget
I was going to go lower. I was going to say maybe 4.89.
Okay. I'm very impressed with both of you. What about today?
Today, I'd probably say 65.
No, I'd say 35.
Okay. These are common answers. 5% is the answer for 20 years ago.
Woo, that was close.
Yeah. If we play Price is Right rules,
Right.
Americanism, you win. Lower.
Yeah.
5% is the answer today too.
5%.
That shocks people. And the takeaway there is I would never, my son is, again, at 3 years old, he became a self-proclaimed vegetarian, nothing we said or did. But the goal, like on our journey, we still eat meat, not a lot, but some, isn't to make people never eat meat, never fly, never use their like gas automobile. Like that is an unrealistic goal wherever it's at, right? But can you have red meat one less day a week? Can you bike one more day a week? Right? Like that stuff, when it happens in mass, makes a difference.
That's my new book, the benefits of low goal setting. I've been doing that for years. Seriously,
Talk about this all the time.
No, but setting a goal that's achievable still gives one the feeling of satisfaction, no question.
Is that the title of your book? Low.
I've got it's one book, but it has multiple titles.
Okay,
it's basically all these titles on the cover.
Actually, it's a book of titles.
One line.
Wait.
But like you talk about that, and I think it's funny. So I have this butterfly on my desk. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
And I always talk about the butterfly. There's a butterfly effect where they talk about if a butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, what kind of storm does it cause somewhere else? I'm probably completely butchering that. But I switched it to the butterfly impact, being like, when you do one small thing, it actually makes a bigger impact when around the world. And what you're talking about is if we bike more, or if we do one little thing, the overall impact of everybody doing one small thing could really change a universe. And I think that's huge.
I love the butterfly impact. There's multiple things I might now steal with this.
You can borrow and steal whatever you want. Just give me credit for like the first time.
Deal. Butterfly impact, Jaime Marco. I want to build on that because it's actually through sharing my story, and I want to circle back on what that story is. But it's that story to having a second kid, and yes, about the environment, but also just like being real and how do you have a second kid with still be happily married. The butterfly impact.
This is birds and butterflies. Yes, birds and butterflies.
My husband gave me the best birthday present. Nothing will ever top it. So I turned 40 earlier this year, which I'm very proud of, and I'm just putting it out. Not proud of, that sounds weird. I'm just putting it out there and I'm owning it. But what he did is right around my 39th birthday, he reached out to 40 of my closest friends and family. So my boss, some college professors, my childhood friends, some of our neighbors that I'm close to. And he said, for Kelsey's 40th, I want to do something big. Can you please do one thing for the environment and the planet that you wouldn't otherwise do for the next year and document your journey? And so I woke up on my 40th birthday at very early in the morning, and my husband is notorious for giving me PowerPoint presentations, whether it's like, I've cleaned your office, or we're running a half marathon and here's your training schedule. And so I, when he presented me my computer with here's what I'm doing, I was not surprised. And then I so ugly cried just seeing how my boss petitioned compost and recycling in her home, how my brother for his work in South Carolina started doing a lot of recycling with the scrap metal they were using. I had a college professor who was taking quilts, scraps, and knitting blankets for children in hospitals. And it was all because my husband asked them to do this for my birthday. And it was because I felt so conflicted about having a second child, partially with how I survived my marriage, but partially with the state of the world and the environment. And holy cow, talk about impact. And in a greater way that I could never have done that, right?
You are a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's amazing. That is incredible. So why is this so important to you?
More importantly, what the hell does he give you next year?
We've already, I was I'm 41. You already did it. I also threw a murder mystery party by myself that I had we are going very low key this year. So expectations have been set. Why do I care about the environment? I ask myself that question a lot. I think there's something innate within me. Do you have 4-H in Florida? Is that a thing still?
Yeah, sure.
In the school,
Oh, okay.
like the agricultural club.
So, yeah, I did 4-H when I was a little girl, right? I learned how to sew and did all of these things. But one of the things I did was something with science and the environment. And I remember I was on TV when I was like 7 years old, composting with worms, right? Like I was talking about it then. And so I think I would be lying if I said it wasn't just like built into my DNA and karma living in Colorado and my parents and the things that I'm doing. But there's just so much beauty and so much abundance for what we have. And whether I don't want to be ignorant enough that there's people on here that's like, right, that think climate change is a hoax. That is still a real thing, as we know, or it's not happening. No matter what you believe, something that is true is that our resources are finite. And the more we use and the more that we use as individuals, the less there is left for our children or our children's children, right? There are tons of species that didn't exist, that don't exist any longer, that existed before because of human impact. And so I guess to answer that question, because this sounds so cliche and lame, maybe lame, but I want to leave the world better than before I was around. And this is a way to do that.
I love that. You said something and you might relate to this or not, but so we got my daughter, just as the animal thing you were talking about, and I want to jump back in, but it's my squirrel brain. We had her this big sign in her playroom that was the alphabet, and every letter had an animal that started with that letter. And on the end, there was this like whale looking thing with a horn. I'm like, what is that? She's like, oh, mommy, that's a narwhal. I'm like, what in the world is a narwhal? It did not exist when I was your age. But I never, like as a kid, I never heard of narwhals until I was adult now and had my child. So I'm not sure how long narwhals have been around. So if I'm offending somebody, sorry. But I just thought you made me think about that. But it's so fascinating because you said that your 3-year-old came home and was like, I want to be a vegetarian, at 3 years old. Where do you think, is that, through things practicing you were doing at home? Or is that like, where do you think, is that nature versus nurture with him? Or where do you think that's coming into play?
I don't know, because again, my husband and I, we don't eat a lot of meat, but probably twice a week we'll have meat, which is way less than I would say the average American. But we're not vegetarians, right? We say we're plant strong.
No, I like that.
He was in a supermarket in Ireland, and he was walking past the butcher shop, and he asked my husband, like, what is this? And and my husband was like, that's duck. And he's like, that's not duck, right? He's 3, right? Like he's thinking like there's wings and there's a beak and all of this. And he's seeing the meat of a duck, right? And you just see his little head turning and fuming, and he starts screaming, stop eating duck! Don't do that! You're killing animals! And that literally after that day, no meat ever. But you could just see like that he had seen like this is us as humans, and this is what we do to eat animals. We didn't teach him that. We did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
pardon my ignorance, but in a growing child, what's his best source of protein in a vegetarian diet?
I actually really appreciate that question because that comes up a lot, right? People are like, I eat meat for protein. There's loads of plant protein. There's tons of it. So he's actually also has a gluten intolerance. And so we have to be very careful here. And we do a lot of lentil pasta. So like his favorite thing to eat is veggie lasagna that my husband makes with like lentil pasta. And what we're doing, and lots of veggies for what we're doing. So lots of legumes like beans, lentils, peanut butter, even like peas, for example, has plenty of protein. And then cheese. And don't get, if you're like, oh my God, my kid doesn't eat, like, just so we're clear, my kid has complex carbohydrates very often and cheese still. But yeah, it's pretty easy to get protein. You just need to be intentional about it.
So having seen the duck, he extrapolated that into cows and chickens, or he saw the cows and chickens also in that visit?
There was no meltdown over cows and chickens, but I think it's fair to assume that he extrapolated it. And yeah, he's never been tempted.
Don't take him to
And it's,
Korea.
again, it's interesting. We eat meat in front of him, and sometimes he actually doesn't like that. Like he doesn't like the smell, or we'll ask him, or we'll need to do things. And it's a beautiful way to build empathy and curiosity, right? Like we really want to respect his wishes and where he's at. And
That's your older child or your younger child?
Older.
My older child. My younger child has had no meat because he is 6 months old.
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't tried it yet. That's all.
Yes, he hasn't tried, and we will expose it to him. We feel it's similar to religion, right? You can't. How can you know if you like something or don't like it if you don't have exposure to it?
So true. It's interesting though, because I think that, so we had this conversation with someone the other day and we were saying that kids, I don't know if it's worldwide. I know when I talk to girls or moms of girls my daughter's age, we're talking about how girls are just developing faster and earlier than they ever have, and things are happening. So it led down to the path of, because the meats that we are eating, the food that we do eat has different hormones in it and different chemicals, more so than ever has before. And then I was sharing with them that when I go to the grocery store here and I buy chicken, even if it's, like the organic, green wise, whatever it might be here, there's an expiration date on it that's typically like, I think it's like a week or two, something like that. When I go to London and I go to the grocery store and I'm there, you have to cook the meat within 2 days or it's gone bad. Like the expiration dates are so much faster. And even and then when you look at even candy, so for example, M&Ms here, and not that I'm bashing M&Ms or I think it's the Mars company, but they're different. When you buy it in the UK, it's literally different chemicals than what you buy when you're here. And so I do think that the UK and the other countries are a little bit further advanced in their sustainability. And not only that, but just their way of eating and what they put in their food and how they do things. So I wonder, the meat tastes different there, the chicken tastes different there. And so I think it's just a little different as well too. I don't know if I have a point. I just wanted to share that.
You are right. Just to validate you, right? Like that's our experience as well. Like we have to be very diligent about when we buy things, and that's why you have people that go to the store multiple times a week in terms of what you're buying, or you go and you get things the day of. What's really, I think, interesting here, like in the US, you see a lot of like grass fed or cage free or what have you. And first of all, can be so misleading, right? Cage free means like there's a little tiny door that maybe they could fit out of, right?
Yeah.
So for any of you who think you're doing great things, thank you. One, for thinking, like wanting to do great things. Two, and two, question what that great thing is, right? The thing that's funny here is grass fed, right? Grass fed beef is better. Like cows should not be eating corn. The whole reason cows get antibiotics is because they shouldn't eat corn. So it creates bacteria in their stomachs. And cows only eat corn here. Like it would be atrocious for cows, or sorry, grass. Pardon me, grass. Only grass here. It would be atrocious for them to eat corn, right? Like they are all free range, like meaning you literally see them on the field eating grass. They're not in this big warehouse with nowhere to move eating corn. And I think just the way the food, that's a whole nother podcast, and I really don't need the FDA or anyone else
question.
to write me nasty grams after this, but it's bad. Sorry, Stan, what were you saying?
In the scheme of vegetarianism, are eggs optional?
My experience is many vegetarians still eat eggs, and they're also a good source of protein. It's the idea that you're killing an animal to eat it is where vegetarians don't eat them. So
your son will not eat eggs at all.
No, but that's beyond. I mean, he's 7. That's a taste thing. That's not like an integrity principled thing.
So you keep hinting back to like a story, more to dive into that. What is that? Like you keep hinting into like, tell us.
Yeah. So I'm on maternity leave, but I didn't think I was ever going to have a second baby. And a big part of that was the environment. Like I didn't know if it was the right thing to do for our planet, for the future, for this baby. And having my first child really took a toll on my marriage. It's not funny. I'm still teaching that to my child. He's like, "Why are you laughing if it's sad?" And
if I'm
not laughing, and then I don't know. I need the white walls.
Yeah, I'm crying. I'm not laughing. Yeah. But so there was we had my first son in 2017. My husband and I had been together for 10 years. And we didn't know if we wanted a first kid, right? We were both working in consulting and 60 hours a week. And right, like, we're like, how the hell do people have kids? And so we're a little older when we had my first, not a little older when we had my first son. And about a year and a half in, we were on the brink of like separation in therapy. It wasn't working for us. I was later doing, huh?
It's highly disruptive, no question about that.
Absolutely, right. And this is not unique, right? That I am not telling any story to any parent that's like, "Whoa, that happened to you." They're like, "No shit, Kelsey."
I mean, you scroll on Instagram, you see everyone saying the same things. We're all feeling the same things, right? So that's my validation. I'm like, oh yeah, we all see that, and it's got 90,000 million views. Yep. Go ahead.
So real. But like, what do you do about it, right? Yeah. And so we did therapy. I was later diagnosed with postpartum anxiety, which I've really been tapping into, and particularly now with my second kiddo, just hyper aware of, right? Like, I would bite my husband's head off if my child didn't get their third nap at like 4:30 on the dot, right? Like, that's not helpful for your marriage. And then, but I still, 2 years in, I was like, I want a second kid. And everything on paper said, like, why would you ever want that? And so we went through a really big exercise around this, right? My husband was a hard no on a second kid. Like, like, for sure we were going to get divorced. Like, it wasn't good for our planet. Like, why? There was no good why. And I didn't have a good why either. I just primally, as a woman, like, wanted it, and I couldn't shake it. I even read this beautiful book called The Joy of Having an Only Child, and I loved it. For anyone who has an only child, or that's your path, or wants to do that, like, it's beautiful, and I loved it. And for a good 9 months, I had gotten to a place where I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna have one kid. I feel good about it. Here's how we're gonna do it. Here's how I'm gonna, like, here's the things I want to do because it's going to be good for our marriage and it's going to be good for the world. And then I wrote my story and I published it and I shared it with with our parents and some family. And first of all, they didn't respond to it. Again, a whole other thing, right? Like, it was like weeks after I shared this super vulnerable story about how we're not having a second child. And my husband's parents were like, I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, we take reusable shopping bags to the grocery store. Can't we just do that? That was literally their response to my story, like my very vulnerable story. Good news is that even if I asked them to listen to this, they wouldn't.
Can't get my sisters to listen to it either, so you're totally fine.
Oh, so much there.
Yeah.
And then my parents were like, I mean, we support you, like, whatever you want to do, like, we just very nonchalant, like, I didn't think I was seeking validation from them, right? Like, I would hope not, as was right in my late 30s at the time. But I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I being such a martyr? Like, I didn't feel the relief that I wanted to feel.
You can get the feedback you're expecting to get, no question.
Yeah, right. Like, it was, And so I tapped into a little more, and I was like, is this really there? Is this really about the environment? And I've done lots of research. So I feel fairly informed about things, and literally, like, from making the environment better place, like, put a dot and then like 20 zeros and then a 1. And that's the difference not having a kid from just me would have, right? Like, literally, if I am the only one doing it, it's not going to make a difference. And I was so upset about it. And so I was set on a path. I was like, cool, how can I do this? How can I have a great marriage? How can I be better for the environment? And I was on a path to figure that out. And so a lot of the things I've been doing, like, my husband and I, on our family, we have an electric vehicle. We bike a lot. We have a cool cargo bike. That's a very European thing. Like, so that's how my husband takes my son to school, is in a cargo bike. We eat less meat. We try to take alternate forms of plane, like, not just plane travel, et cetera, et cetera. But that again, isn't going to do anything. And so, and I love what you're doing and sharing your story and going back to butterfly impact. There is empirical research that just sharing things and sharing what you care about gets people to think differently about what you're doing. And so that's what I've been on the mission to do, is to share this story. And again, it's not about being perfect. It's not about not eating meat, about not driving, about not doing things. But like, someone who, my relatives who really, really, really love dairy, like, because of my story and what they're doing, they're like, cool, we'll try oat milk, an alternative, like, butter and doing what they're doing, right? Just exploring something else. And I have found that really beautiful in where it's at. And the thing that I've been doing is actually going back into Google where I work. And I enjoy speaking, but I had never really spoken about sustainability. And now I am the presenter for sustainability for the exec summits that Google does. So when they bring a big client into Google and they're talking about innovation or creativity, they also talk about sustainability. And I get to have those conversations. And so recently-ish, a big European hotel chain came in and they didn't really want to talk about sustainability. It wasn't what they cared about, but it was part of the package in the deal. So I came in and I do my shtick. And part of what I talk about is being human, right? That like I'm wearing vegan leather pants, but that's just a fancy name for freaking plastic and like fashion, right? Like right? I'm fallible. I'm so fallible. And we talk about what Google's doing and what's possible. And I get an email a couple days later that's like, that was their favorite session. Like, here are their new initiatives around what they're doing. And if you weigh that of like me not having a kid, right, which again, on an individual impact is a big deal, but on like the changing the world impact is not even a drop in the bucket to a big European hotel chain, changing how they have, right, they're going to do more gardens in terms of what they're doing, or getting rid of single-use plastic bottles in the hotel. Huge. And that's what I've been playing with. And that's what I think we like. I'm going to stick with this butterfly impact thing, right? Like that is it.
At that point during that presentation, you had the second child, or you made a commitment not to have? Where were you at?
No, I hadn't. But so that's a whole other thing. Is it took about 3 years of my husband and I going back and forth, right? Like I was really trying to get on board with it, with one kiddo and how wonderful that could be. And then we started trying, and because I'm a little older and where things were at, it took a while, and it was a year and a half of trying. And I literally got to a place I'm like, I don't want a second kid anymore. I'm tired of like thinking I'm pregnant and I'm just hormonal and not thinking I can drink and I can't. And that's, I found out I was pregnant.
when you relaxed, it all happened. Sure.
Yeah. Like what everyone else said. Yeah. So.
Well, speaking of for in-laws and parents, it's funny because it's the world that what I call the world of objectivity versus subjectivity. You're expressing your subjectivity, but your parents and in-laws, because of their objective nature, why not have a kid? What's the big deal with this? They're outside the issue.
Oh, they super didn't get it.
And it's a constant tug. When someone's objective about something and someone's subjective, it's tough to get those two things to meet, at least share some common, like a ventric circle, whatever you call those things, where they get together. It's not easy.
Venn diagram?
No.
That's it, yes.
The Venn diagram. No, it's not easy at all. And the environmental piece, my parents got a little bit more, my husband's parents a little bit less. But the support piece, right? A second part of it was just our marriage and our support. The average American lives 18 miles from their parents. And like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when you had babies, it was a community thing, right?
Sure.
You see a lot of other non-Caucasian families, they have multi-generational homes. And so for us to live in Chicago, not with our family, or to live here that's a big freaking deal when you talk about kids and getting sick and have two working parents. And that was something we really had to rethink. And neither of our parents were keen sadly, to be closer to us and to help out in that way.
It's hard. I mean, that's why we moved to Florida. We moved when I was 7 months pregnant, because we knew that my parents live. Dad, how many miles do you live as the crow flies?
About 5 as the crow struggles as he walks.
By golf cart, you can get here in 30 minutes?
Yes.
But both my sisters live in Colorado. I mean, my one sister, her kids are older, but they did live here before. But there is that help you do need, like tomorrow I have to be at a meeting and my husband has to work. And I'm like, hey, can you take her to, her after school activity? And it does help, and it's hard. And then that puts the struggle and the challenge on you as a couple. And believe me, like I said, you're not alone. We all feel those same.
Let's go back a couple of generations. What you guys don't realize, even if you ignored your kids, they grow up okay.
That's okay. That's a real thing, right? That is.
It is.
Stan, sorry, Jamie. I don't want to like.
No, you're fine.
It's okay to say, get the hell out of this room. I need some time for myself.
Your daughter.
Yeah.
But we call it, I think there's a term for it now that's like gentle neglect or something like that, right? Like we're at the age of like intensive parenting, right? Where you need to be there. And there is a beauty of I'm not promoting latchkey kids here or anything like that, but I do want to just acknowledge, I think we didn't have our son watch TV until he was maybe like 3.5 or 4 or something. And my husband's parents were like, the way you parent is exhausting, right? Like just always involved, always needing to do activities, not letting them get bored. And that's been part of our journey too, right? Where my son now, I mean, he now goes grocery shopping with us. He now has to, like, we call them family contributions. Like we're fun. Like yesterday he was bored and I was like, that's beautiful, right? And there was some moaning and groaning and complaining around 10 times. We ignore him. And finally we find him playing with an old train set that was in his little brother's room, right? Like, so that's a shift that's real too.
I know. It's so funny. Yesterday, so my daughter's gotten into basketball a little bit. She's played, at different after with kids. And there's 3 boys that live across the street from us. And one's older than her, 2 are a little bit younger. But she comes home from school. I give her 30 minutes to watch something that she wants. Then we do homework. And then we typically go to after school activities. And I always said to her, I'm like, maybe you want to play basketball with them one night. She's like, I don't know. We saw them trick or treating. I said, hey, boys, would you mind if Hannah came and played basketball with you? And she doesn't really play with kids in our neighborhood. Like, we just don't, it's not that kind of a neighborhood. We have older kids in our neighborhood. And I grew up always being outside and coming home, when it was dark, all that stuff. And so they know, yeah, that'd be totally fine. So yesterday we were driving home and they were all outside with the dad. And we rolled out the window, hey, can she come and play with you? Yeah, totally. So she jumps out. She's wearing her black, like not Doc Martens, but like a black boot that would be like similar to that. She's like, I'm going to play. They're in flip-flops. And I said to my husband, I'm like, well, our neighbor is outside with the boys. I'm like, well, just stay outside. He's like, I literally can see their driveway from my front window. But I'm like, well, just stay outside. It's like, why do I have to be outside with her? She's playing basketball with our neighbor. But I'm like, so, that like, what if something happens to her? What if she tries to cross the street from home?
I'm officially available to come to your home for hire just to ignore your children.
Dad, you already do that for free. Just kidding.
It's a family deal, friends and family.
No, but it's just so different. I think also, but we know more maybe today because we're so much more connected. So we have more to be fearful of. I don't know, whatever. That's a whole other podcast. So now you're in it. You've got a 6-month-old, you've got your 7-year-old, you guys are navigating it. What would you say as a family? You talked about all of your friends and your closest 40 friends, what they did for that 1 year. What would you say would be like something that someone who's just not conscious of it right now, as a family or as an individual, what would be the top 3 to 5 things that you guys do that would be easy for somebody? And I hate to say easy but that's what people lean into, something that's easy for them to transition into.
Absolutely.
Top 5 things that people will be able to say, you know what? Hey, I want to be another butterfly. I want to have that effect just like Kelsey is. What would you recommend someone starts if they're not doing anything now?
I want to say things that people haven't heard before but are meaningful. And so I think the first thing I would say is just to say that to people. Like, if you actually want to be doing more, like, and even just talking about sustainability, like, people don't talk about it, right? Like, I would encourage, if you're listening now, or like, do you know if your neighbors recycle? Do you know if they do secondhand? Like, do you know how they feel about it? And the answer might be no, because it's not something we talk about. So where can you find something that feels authentic to you to say that? Like, with everything going on in the world, I want to make a difference. Like, it can start at home. Like, is there anything you're doing for the planet that you'd recommend that's easy? Like, ask your neighbor that.
I love that.
That is actually what I would recommend doing, is just creating space to have a non-judgmental conversation about something. And we always, like, I've spoken to people or like different generations that think that needing to do something for the environment means needing not to do something, right? Like, I know plenty of people that are like, I'm never giving up meat. I like on vegetarian, there are some places having vegetarian Monday, they go to a steak restaurant, right? Like, they just, I might be talking about my in-laws again. Okay. Back to topic.
The 80-20 rule.
But it doesn't need to be about sacrifice, right? And so where can you create a conversation on what makes it easy? I literally made a little what's easy to do, hard to do, and low financial cost. So I'm picking this out on where it's at. One of the other things that you will find is your local grocery store or your recycling center will take lots of things that are hard to recycle or you think you can't recycle, right? So plastics, styrofoams, things like that, they are recyclable now. And you just don't we don't think of that because they haven't been for so long. So that's another thing. The third one is going to feel really different. And it is, but there's really good evidence here. Talking about women's rights and women's rights around the right to contraceptives, the right to things around like abortion or things like that. Like the more that we have conversations that empower women's equity and equality and giving them an equal platform in what we're doing. And yes, this still exists in countries like America, not just developing countries. There's plenty of people that are having children because they're forced not to use contraceptives. Will help all of the environment and what we're doing. And there's bigger just connections to women and where things are at. So this is not an American centric story, but just to bring this out so it doesn't feel like such a far-fetched idea. There was a tsunami somewhere, I think in the Philippines or in an area where the women had to be dressed head to toe, right? So she had her hijab on and everything around her. And she was the one who needed to go save the grandmother who was upstairs and take the baby and where things are at. And then her dressings got caught in the door, as the tsunami is coming in, right? And she's the one who has to suffer because of how she's dressed. So she can't pull herself out of the door. And because it was her job to take care of the elderly and the babies and everyone in terms of what they are doing, right? And so the more we can empower equity, the more that actually has these downstream effects to the environment that we wouldn't necessarily think about in what we're doing. So that again might feel weird and not connected, but it is.
It's all connected, sure.
That's a great connection there. What do you think it was when you were pitching, or not pitching, but you were kind of pitching the hotel, right? When you're talking about it, what do you think it was that they were that made it the best presentation? Now, I've seen you speak. You're very engaging, obviously very playful, and so there's
tell me
well, there's so many. I mean, you're amazing already, incredible. And there's that side of it, right? So you're super captivating, and you get people like that. But what do you think it was? Because listen, we are growing. We've got massive hotel chains, massive restaurants, and we're starting to see more and more people change from having refillable water bottles. I went to a retreat not long ago, and as I got there, they gave me a water bottle part of my stay and said, "Use this." I drink out of all real cups, or this is a Yeti cup. I'm going to just do that so I can tag them. No, I'm just kidding.
Show the brand. Show the brand.
Yeah.
Oh, pick it up again.
This is a Yeti cup that keeps the water nice and cold.
Oh, that's better.
Now my brother will listen.
There you go. But I do, I walk around with a refillable water bottle everywhere I go. I always have my water bottle. I always have it on me. My daughter, and at school now, they always have their refillable water bottles. But what do you think it was for any business that's like a hotel or a restaurant or hospitality that they heard you say in that, and I don't want to give your talk away, that really was a key takeaway for them to say, you know what? Yes.
I should go ask them. It is what you're telling me.
Yes, you should.
One of the things that I really hammer home, which I think is really, really true, is there is still this old antiquated thinking that doing things for the environment or for sustainability is an investment and is a cost. And sure, just like anything, it can be, but that's the wrong way to think about it from a business perspective, right? Buying single-use water bottles for a hotel, that's a cost versus literally printing or sending an email that says we have glasses and we're not doing that. That saves you money. And so I think really similar to so many things, right? Human resources, marketing, etc. You could, from a business standpoint, you could say, is this a cost center or is this a profit center? And I would encourage, as corporations are, thinking about the environment doesn't need to be from a cost center, right? There is a profit center. There is a story to tell there, whether that's yay, I get to buy less single-use plastics, or having a garden on top of my rooftop, right? Yes, there's a one-time capital expenditure for that and some ongoing costs, but do you have this now new space that people can see? Can you not, can you do something different with that? And so I think thinking differently about what you get from it, I have a business degree. I get that America is like everything we do, whether it's our hospital systems to our restaurants to a school, it is a business, and fooling ourselves that it's not is a lie, right? So talk to them in the business sense. How
Well,
can
you
this make
show
you
you
money?
show
How
them a
is it an
benefit
investment?
there was a benefit in what you would. It's like an insurance company spending money now to be preventative saves you money down the line. They saw the benefit what you were talking about, so it was a business decision. It was also a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And that's, you know what, Jaime, I'll go back to what you're saying. If you look at me, right, I came in and I really did. I had my vegan leather pants on with zippers on and my pink heart glasses. And so I don't look like your average, like crunchy hippie person who's going to talk to you about loving trees, right? I think going in and being like, okay, there is a realism here for needing to get on board with the business side of this in a way that doesn't need to feel so far-fetched and not aligned to making a profit.
I love that. I remember when I did a training one time about persuasion or influencing. I forget who it was for. Anyway, they researched the study, and part of it was about, the messaging about the towels when you go stay in a hotel, and they say, 60% of our guests choose not to have their towels washed every day. And when you do that and you don't have your towels washed every day, this is what it saves. And I thought it was like, and I've been to hotels like that before where they share with you, hey, pick up your towel, hang it up, the littlest thing that you can do, and this is the impact you can have. And I think that the more we hear of those stories, like we were talking about the woman with the hijab and how, the connection of all of it, I think educating people is huge. Letting people know what is the impact of the small little thing you do. Like if you don't ask to have your sheets changed every single time you're in a hotel every single night or washed, what water is saved and how does that impact somebody else? Or if you choose to have meet less few times a week, what is the impact of that? And I just think that's so cool that you're on that mission to share that impact, because that story is not told enough, especially for, listen, you're, 41, I'm closer to 50. My dad is closer to 8.
I love that of everyone on this call, it's your dad who's sensitive about his age.
Hold on.
Coming up.
The book says "Ageless Body, Timeless Mind." I think that's what it says. Yeah.
Is that another title for your book, or that's something that you're reading?
I take the best from all the people I can.
Smart. Talent borrows, genius steals. But no. So I think like the thing is that the more we can educate every generation, it's going to be, and I do believe, like, I know my daughter is coming up and she's talking about recycling. I don't think when I was in third grade, I talked about recycling. I don't think it was a thing that we were even as much aware of, but I think that I love what you're doing. And I love that you're spreading the message. And I think the cooler thing is that you're going and you're talking in front of these rooms of people who are in really great positions to make a decision for their business, but then they're also influential in their own home, and they'll go home and hopefully will have those conversations in their community, and they'll talk with people in their world, and you will be that big butterfly that will help us.
Okay, it's a good time for a 3-minute levity break. Are you ready, Kelsey?
Oh my God.
2 areas.
Nothing like being cut off by your dad. I'm ready.
Living in such a wonderful environment. Dublin. We missed that. We got the Belfast. Didn't get the Dublin. We'll get there next.
Why haven't we things here?
Someone said go to the Harry. Is the Harry Lemon still there?
The Harry Lemon.
It's a bar in
If
Dublin.
it is, I don't frequent it. Keep in mind, I have a small baby at home, so like my nighttime calendar leaves something to be desired.
But living in a country environment itself, with a sky dark, it's like a dark city. Have you ever had any minimal UFO experience?
Ooh, a UFO. Okay, I like really want to make up a story right here.
Nothing you've never seen anything unusual in the sky, somebody following you.
Oh, listener, you've heard this quite a few times, and here he goes again.
That's yes or no. No.
As I have told my child 800 bajillion times when he's scared of the dark, we live in one of the safest neighborhoods in the world. Very true. So no scary things in the dark. I think, Stan, I'm really sorry. I think the worst problem that we have is some older teenage kids that are lighting fireworks that I could maybe confuse as like a UFO crash landing in our very nice little forest walkway.
In a future romantic encounter, ask yourself, say, honey, have you ever had any UFO experience? And see what happens. Second point is, for our listeners who are so curious, you work for Google. All we think about, you get massages, you have a great cafeteria, you laugh all day long. What the hell's going on there?
I mean, clearly it's not working if we're laying people off now.
Well, how many massages can you get? My God, you get too loosey-goosey.
But you've been there a long time too.
9 years. Yeah. Jaime knows playfulness stuff is my shtick. That's my other passion that I talk about, and I really believe in levity at work. Believe it or not, Google is not immune to other big corporation stuffs, and I can tell you I have a fair amount of meetings that are very boring and very strict and very, okay, next agenda item, and I am the one that is trying to appease that. So for
Keep the
those of
fun
you that
going.
watched the internship 20 years ago, that was 20 years ago. Google now has some new leadership, and I don't actually know if it's 20 years. Don't quote me. I see Jamie's face, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, it is still a wonderful place to work for anyone who's at Google who might be listening, though all of my views are my own, and it is
Have they
still very much a
changed the
business.
name in the cafeteria from Google Soup to Alphabet Soup?
Dad, okay, I'm cutting you off. I did want to
Okay.
share with you. So before we wrap up, because I know you're maternity leave, there could be a feeding coming by or some playtime or tummy time at 6 months old. Oh, I miss that age. Oh, it's like the best.
Well, you say that now.
I know, I miss it.
I will shamelessly, as you talk, pull up a picture of my new baby. Keep going.
Please do.
You see, pain has no memory.
But so I know you're going to be super surprised by this, but a few years ago, the principal at our elementary school asked if I would do a leadership book cohort with some parents at the school. And I was like, yeah. So she gave us a book to read. And have you read this book?
Oh, of course. Oh, no, not
Families one. Yes, right? So it is so good, so good. And it just takes, Stephen Covey's concepts and helps you transition it into your family. So listener, you can't see it, but it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. I'm actually gifting it to a coaching client today. And it's amazing. Like it's an easier read than the first book. But they do the 7 habits at her school. She's a 7 habit school. And it's so awesome. It gives you different activities to do with your family and your friends and your kids. And I know we were talking earlier about like surviving parenthood and having children and a marriage and all that kind of stuff. And it's really awesome. So I recommend it to everyone that I talk to because I think I get nothing from this. I don't get a cut from it. I'm not like an ambassador, but I love it. And there's sometimes where my husband and I will having a conversation and I'll say, hold on 1 second. I want to read this to you real fast. But it's huge. It's amazing. So anyway, I just want to share that with you. It's on my desk because I'm giving it to somebody.
I didn't know that. Thank you. I love it. I get my husband to read those books too. Most recently, How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids. That's a real book. It's very good.
I write that.
And I love my husband to read. All right. This is my newest member.
Oh my gosh.
What's his name?
Oh, so delicious.
His name is Cohen.
Oh, I love that.
Great.
Cohen?
Coen, the Irish way.
Oh, so cute. Well, we are so grateful that you took time out of your day to spend with us. It's so good to see you live, and I'm following you all the time in different places, but I love to hear your voice, and this has been awesome. So thank you for
Do you see yourself living forever for the rest of your whatever?
The answer, the stock answer we give is we will stay here as long as it works for us. And in the current world, I don't imagine moving back to America right now.
Are both of your families in Colorado?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Should we bring them something for Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
My mom already, she's like, do I need to tip them in euros? She's coming in a couple of weeks and she totally has canned pumpkin in her bag and other things like that. To figure out how to get our bags here. But thank you on my side, right? Like this is super selfish for me to tell my story and doing what we're doing, but I believe in it. So I just thank you for creating the space for what's your story, right? I really have enjoyed some of the stories and just perspective and empathy that's created and delighted to be part of it.
We're so grateful. It's something we just started as a passion project. And one of my sisters was like, well, how long are you doing it for? And I was like, well, we do it for like an hour each week, but like, how long are you going to do it for? I'm like, I don't understand the question. She's like, is it like a series, like a mini series? I'm like, no, there's billions of people in the world. Like we're going to keep doing it until we can't do it, So we're so grateful.
Yeah, everybody likes talking about ourselves. I am no exception. So thank you for listening. Well,
we appreciate you so much. I hope that our paths cross again in the near future. Thank you.
Keep the child inside of you alive. Not that child inside of you, the child inside of you here. No more children inside of you. That's it.
Stan, if I come across any UFO sightings, you will be the first to know.
Have a pleasant journey. Thank you very much.
Bye, Kelsey.
Happy trails.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh my goodness. I just love that we get to do this all day long and I get to do it with you, Dad.
I got places to go, baby, things to do. I'm retired. Come on.
Yeah, you're so busy. So
I've got my new invention I'm pushing. I got the old invention. I got things that my own
do you
fitness
want to talk
program.
about it? Because this is airing in May, April-ish.
I
This is
want to
airing
talk.
in
I still want to talk about the personal power everyone has and doesn't realize what they have. We'll probably get into it a little bit more. People don't realize how strong they are and how even her situation here was when she relaxed, she got pregnant. Those stories abound where you're so tense, you can't get things done. Slow it down, relax a little bit. But see,
yeah.
I've been to so many seminars, everyone they tell you to relax. When someone tells you to relax, what do?
You
You
tense
don't
up.
relax.
It's like telling someone like never in the history of being told to calm down has anyone calmed down.
Uh, I think that's pretty accurate, yes.
You
So, but
know,
there are ways in which to slow your vibration down, which really just benefits you in many, many ways, mentally, physically, a combination.
but I think like not only on like, and this is obviously my own personal opinion, but on the diet side of things, as you know, recently I've had to cut back on meats and things in my diet to stay healthier and change the things that are going on in my world. But I really do believe that it's not only your thought, but it's what you put inside you as well to the impacts you. Like, I don't know. We talked briefly in a previous session about my struggle with infertility and how we couldn't have more kids. And I don't know that wasn't tied to diet, but I also love how she talked about just like the sustainability of the world as well, too. And I think there's just so many cool interconnected parts there that
Well, even listen. Occasionally, I'll send you some posts by Sad Guru, the Indian mystic. But the point is, if you have a banana, for example, after you eat the banana is you. You have a piece of bread, the bread is you. So you're consuming part of your universe, which becomes your universe. But as far as generally in eating, I think people all eat too much. You realize that because when you eat, all your blood flow goes to digest that food, which leaves your brain to some degree. I think if you experiment for a week or 2 or 3 weeks by eating a little bit less or cutting back on stuff, you get much greater mental clarity. I mean, the
yeah.
world is everybody's avoiding reality. They want something to get them out of reality is fine. Enjoy it where you can, but no one is preaching this. The old wisdom out there doesn't exist anymore. You've got to go search it, and most people don't have the energy to search it out.
So let's make a commitment in Kelsey's honor. What's one thing you're going to do moving forward that will help save the planet or focus on sustainability? What's one thing you will do?
That is such a huge thing to ask me to do. I have to think about that and probably give you an answer once I've put it through the old grist mill.
Okay. All right. I will tell you, it's not the only thing. And as she mentioned, there's lots of little things to do, but I keep saying I want to get reusable bags for my groceries and I don't do that. And I get the plastic and then we throw it out and it's a whole kerfuffle. So I am going to make that commitment to get them in my car, keep them in my trunk. And when we actually travel to London, like you have to pay for bags there because they want to encourage you to bring in your own bags. And we always forget and then we get one. So we actually have some. So we go wherever we go there, we always have when we go back. But I think that's a small little thing I'm going to do. And then the other thing is that I'm going to have those conversations with my neighbors and the people that I know and share this episode. It's the first thing she said to do was to start talking about it, making it part of the conversation. So Kelsey, I'm going to do for you.
If it helps you in any way, keep your plastic bags, give them to me, and I will take care of it.
What will you do with them?
Jaime, you're on a need-to-know basis.
All right, Daddy, I love you.
Okay, beautiful girl. Love you too. This was a good one. If I had worked for Google years ago, who knows where I'd be today?
You would never have made it through the screening process.
I would have been the first one to get laid off.
Bye.
Hey, Stan, it's not you. It's us. You're not working out. Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for tuning into today's What's Your Story podcast.
To learn more or share your story, go to jamiemarco.com. That's www.jaimemarco.com. And we will see you next time.